makes a hole in a stone, not by force, but by consistent dripping. Nothing describes this woman more apt than her indomitable and consistent drive for excellence. Born Bilikisu Abiodun Omobalanle Adekola on December 24, 1962, into the family of Alhaji Abdulmoshood Adekola, the first grandson of the first Alhaji in the city of Ibadan, and a Cameroonian mother, Mrs. Hannah Aduke Adekola, in the ancient city of Ibadan, Oyo State.
In the 60s and 70s, I remember very well, we used to have political parties, Action Group, NCNC. NCNC was Nigerian Council for National Council for Nigeria and the Cameroons, NCNC. So we had political activity extending to the Cameroons. That is as far as I can remember about Cameroon. Cameroon was part of Nigeria. And most Nigerians grew up in the Cameroons in the 60s and 70s. The other side of Cameroon was that they are both English and French speaking. But the French speaking side were very close to Nigeria. And some of us got to know so many Cameroonians in the process. So it was common then to be educated in Cameroon, to get your education in Cameroon, to have relatives in Cameroon, because it was part of Nigeria.
She's the third of 7 children. She attended St. Paul's African Primary School, Lagos, and the famed Methodist Girls High School, Yaba, Lagos, before proceeding to study chemistry at the University of Ife, now known as Obafemi Awolowo University.
Talking about Ibukun Awosika, I think you have a woman of substance. A woman who have left an indelible mark in the financial sector of the economy. You have a woman who's proud of what she's doing, who's passionate about what she's doing. And the fact that she attended the University of Ife, where my brother was the president of the student union for the time, Wole Olaoye. I think they have that DNA of hard work, enterprise, and industry in the University of Ife. Femi Falana and the others were also in Ife. So this was a generation of committed, young, dynamic, intelligent, knowledgeable, and patriotic men and women. So she has made a mark after consistently building herself and being consistently dedicated to her profession. The other side of her is that she's a woman of substance, who loves women, who have cared and supported women, regardless of status, social standing, religion, or class. She has always been behind Nigerian women. And so, it's a woman that should be celebrated by all of us.
Her father, while her mother was still pregnant with her, left for England to further his education. And while she was pretty much young, her mother left the country to go join her husband, to return while she was 8 years. Meanwhile, she was left to be cared for by her grandmother. She was registered in a private boarding primary school at the age of 4.
My parents had me. My father went off to England to go to school before I was born. He left my mother pregnant with me. My mother had me, and before I was a year old, left to join her husband in England, and I was left with my grandmother. I grew up with my grandmother before my parents came back like 8 years after. Spent my first, from about age 4 or 5, I was sent into a boarding nursery school. I lived in boarding school at a very early age. because my parents wanted to protect me from becoming a local Ibadan girl.
And she usually attributes these to her early independence and wisdom. Omo Agbanimi, some of her friends sometimes poke fun at her wisdom, which is way beyond her age.
I was raised by my grandmother, so I'm a bit of an old woman in my brain, in how I think, as my friends say.
Her foray into business started at a very young age at her grandmother's shop where she sells salt. Little did she know that this was going to stand her in good stead in life.
My first exposure to business was my grandmother's little shop where she sold salt. And I used to love to sit behind her little kiosk and help her to sell the salt. But who knew I was being trained for business in my future?
While at secondary school, she participated in the literary debating group, excelling in it, which made her consider a career in law, though that didn't last. Also, it is worthy of note that Ibukun Awosika could hold her own in athletics, earning her the nickname Rabbit because she could really run.
As an athlete, if you want to run, and I used to be fast, they used to call me the rabbit.
Unsure of what career path she was going to settle for, she considered becoming many things at one point or the other of her life. After secondary school, she thought of becoming a medical doctor, but she couldn't stand the sight of a cadaver, so she let go of that idea. Later on, architecture was another fancy that caught her attention. Similarly, she also considered becoming a chartered accountant. Finally, only see she could work in a bank.
I thought I wanted to be a doctor. Then I found out that they work with real dead bodies. I changed my mind very quickly. I then thought, you know what? I'd like to be an architect. I was good in sciences and had a problem if parents sentence you to science when you're good at both. So I ended up in Ife to study chemistry. By the end of my first year, I realized how much I hated chemistry. I could pass it, but I didn't love it. So then I thought, you know, I'd make a good lawyer. I debated throughout school. I used to represent my school in school's debate. So everybody knows that I can win an argument. So I gave it everything trying to change to law. I used to go and sit outside the door of the dean of law. And then one day the man said, come, what do you want? I want to change to law. Is that why you've been sitting outside of my office? Yes, sir. Okay, if I only take one person from another department next year, it will be you.
After the completion of her undergraduate degree at the University of Ife, she went for the compulsory one-year National Youth Service Corps (NYSC) in Kano State, where she worked as an audit trainee at Akitola Williams & Co., which later became Deloitte.
For youth service, I did everything to make sure they sent me to an accounting firm. They first sent me to a Muslim school to go and teach. That was easy to solve. I just wore a dress off my shoulder. I went to report. I was immediately rejected. Once they rejected me, I went back to the posting room and waited there for days until they sent me to Akintola Williams & Co.
Although she was later given full employment after her service year, she felt becoming an accountant wasn't a thing.
You would have thought that having done or gone through all that trouble, accounting would be the love of my life. When I got there, within the 1 year of my youth service, I realized how boring accounting is to me. Because they had all the processes somebody else had thought about before. All I had to do was open old dusty files from company to company without imagination or initiative. I'm a very restless human being. That was not going to work. So I finished the work. I did well. They offered me permanent employment, but I said, thank you, but no thank you. Why? Because at that moment, I had come to a realization that that was not the vision for my life.
After returning home, she joined Alibert Nigeria Limited, a furniture company, as showroom manager. In a word, only to kill time. She only stayed for 3.5 months. She left to begin a furniture manufacturing company called Quibis Limited in 1989, just months before her 26th birthday. The company later grew into SOUQ Center Limited, following a venture merger with SOUQ SA and Guarantee Trust Bank in 2004.
But the first job I could find 1 week after was in a furniture company. So I went there to kill time. My kill time project has resulted in 30 years of investment of my life in building a manufacturing group in furniture. So it was never the plan of my life. So some of you will accidentally find your purpose.
One could only wonder what had led her not only to compete, but to thrive in a male-dominated terrain. With over 30 years in business, Ibukun Awosika is a woman to reckon with, encouraging more women to participate in the business terrain. Her passion to see the girl child not just to be educated, but much more to learn to own our own value and trade with it when there is need for it.
It goes without saying that in Nigeria and in most African countries, the girl child suffers a disadvantage that boys don't necessarily suffer. And it's really helpful that people of Ibukun Awosika's stature have grown to a level that they can now create spaces, platforms, and opportunities for other girl children. Things that were not necessarily available to her, she's been able to create for many more people. And it's just striking that when people become wealthy, it's important that they don't look after themselves only. They sort of take on a societal, godmother in a way, which is what Ibukun Awosika has done. So if you look at her trajectories, things she's been able to do for herself and things that she's doing for other people is really impactful, and it's good that she's in that space now.
Her lifelong ambition is to see herself die empty.
My biggest ambition in life is to die empty. Totally empty. That no talents, no giftings, no opportunities, nothing that I was born to do, that I have the capacity to do, that I do not do.
Following her remarkable achievements, she's been conferred with different doctorates, including one in business, entrepreneurship, and human capacity development from the Lagos State University, Ojo. Similarly, she was given a honorary doctorate of business administration from the Obafemi Awolowo University and another from the Olabisi Onabanjo University, Agoiwoye, Ogun State. Apart from her entrepreneurial prowess, Ibukun Awosika is an ordained minister of the gospel, a presenter, writer, and a TV host.
The Bible tells us that let every man be what? A liar. And let who alone be true? Let God alone be true.
She hosts a television program called Business His Way. Also, she acted in the 2020 Kunle Afolayan movie titled Citation, which in addition to the books she had written, including Business His Way, The Girl Entrepreneur, The Girls in the Boardroom, and My Thoughts in Codes. In 2004, she earned a certification in Business Administration and Management from the IESE Business School. She's also the chairperson of the Novel Nigeria Office for Philanthropy and Impact Investment. She has consistently encouraged women to take up more leadership positions without compromising their values and integrity. In 2005, she was appointed the MD CEO of SOUQ SA of France, GTB PLC, the Chair Center Limited, and some local investors after the ban of the importation of furniture by the federal government of Nigeria in 2004. Furthermore, it is noteworthy to note that she independently established another ultra-modern furniture facility, Furniture Manufacturers Mart in Ikeja, Lagos. In 2008, she was among 5 Nigerian entrepreneurs who appeared in the first African version of the Dragon's Den. Unlike a great deal of others who knew exactly what they wanted to do from the beginning, she admitted to accidentally finding purpose. Ibukun Awosika is a member of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, a member of the board of Nigerian Sovereign Wealth Fund, a former chairperson of the Board of Trustees of Women in Management, Business and Public Service, and a member of the IESC's International Advisory Board. Furthermore, she sits on the board of Digital Jewelry Limited and Cabri Nigerian PLC, Additionally, she's a fellow of the African Leadership Initiative and Aspen Global Leadership Network. History was made on the 7th day of September 2015 following the resignation of Prince Ajibola Afonja. She became the first female chair of the First Bank of Nigeria in its 126 years of existence.
In the history of First Bank of Nigeria, over 100 years, they've never had a female chairman. Ibukun Awosika is the first. And these are things that don't happen by chance. These are things that are not just random. There has to be something that the board has identified about her that made them repose this much faith in her to take on this role. And you cast your mind back, what was her pathway to this point? You know, she had a chair center at a point that most of the chairs that were being used in Nigerian corporate organizations were being imported. But there was a law, you know, that banned the importation of, you know, chair and furniture. And that was our first big hit, so to speak. So you have somebody who could identify a need that was going to be created by government policy, and she positioned herself well to be able to take advantage of it. Is that type of thinking that people who run First Bank, shareholders, board management, can entrust such a huge institution to a person like Ibukun Awosika? And then when you look at how she's been able to navigate the treacherous waters of business, business is hard. For a woman, it's twice as hard. In some cases, thrice as hard. So she's been able to navigate it because she understands perfectly where she's coming from, what her peculiar story is, and how we can now morph into other things. So it's something that I think not only women should learn from. As a matter of fact, all Nigerians of all genders, all Africans can learn a thing or two, or 10 or 20 from the career of Ibukun Awosika.
26 years of existence, Ibukun Awosika is a woman of core value.
Ever seen Ibukun Awosika speak, you think that she's talking specifically to you, because she packs a lot of conviction into her speeches, into her sermons, into her talks, whatever she's doing. And it's not far removed from her own story. I mean, she's one of several children. She had to reinvent herself. You know, she had a specific name that she was given at birth, but as she grew up and admired other people in society, she took on another persona, basically recreating herself. I think that's the first step, you know, that every successful person needs to take. Look at yourself, look at what is lacking, and see how you can recreate yourself.
Ibukun Awosika's Octo-Nigerian father, Abdul Moshood Adekola, who was a great influence in her life, passed on the 20th April 2020 after serving the Lord as an usher at the Fountain of Life Church in Ibukunoluwa. He was a Muslim convert. He was converted few days before his 60th birthday. She got married on her 28th birthday to Abiodun Awosika, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Excel Exploration and Production Company Limited, and they are blessed with 3 fine young men, Oludola, Olufishika, and Olamiposi. To celebrate a life of impact at 60, friends and mentees surprised Awosika by building the Ibukun Awosika Sports Center at our beloved secondary school, Methodist Girls High School, Yaba, Lagos. This project took about 6 months to complete and had some of our mentees like Tara Durutoye, Ndidi Okuanu, Chichi Nwoko, and Bisola Runsewe. They marshaled it alongside a team of other successful people. She stands like Joshua upon the pinnacle of the Horeb, looking to command an army of a new generation of women entrepreneurs that wouldn't stop at anything to achieving their God-given dreams. For her, she believes that regardless of how illustrious her career is and how successful she could ever get in life, her family and husband remain the most important gift in her life. Ibukun Awosika